Well, welcome to the next episode of our Career Chat series. Last week, we had Stephen Felger from Management Consulting. He's currently working at CoreLogic. And today, we're really blessed to have an alum who is an MBA student who concentrated in finance. Her name is Olga Grigorchuk, and she is currently at Qualcomm as a finance manager there. So we're really interested and getting to know you a little bit better here today, Olga, and finding out how you got into this career path. Why don't you just start by briefly describing your experience in corporate finance?
So when I realized I was interested in building my career in corporate finance, I applied to San Diego State for my MBA, and I think that's one of the best decisions I've made in my life. I was studying part-time, working full-time in a local biotech company in accounting and finance. And then by the time of my graduation, I landed a job with Qualcomm. I've been with Qualcomm for 5 years now and never had a dull moment. It is an amazing company, one of the best companies in San Diego to be. I had multiple positions, starting with SG&A finance, supporting organizations such as sales, ops, marketing, legal, strategy. Then I moved on to OpEx finance, supporting one of actually the largest engineering organization with over 1 billion in under management and controllable spend, almost 10,000 employees. That was pretty exciting. And about a year ago, I rotated to a different business unit. We have adjacent business units in Qualcomm, aside from mobile. So now I'm on automotive BU finance team, overseeing top line, responsible for revenue, incentives, pricing, forecasting, and reporting.
Awesome. So obviously corporate finance is a broad term and can mean a lot of things to different companies. You could have the same title in one company and there'd be a different set of responsibilities at another. But in your words, how would you define corporate finance as a field?
In my words, corporate finance is all about maximizing shareholders' value through long-term, short-term forecasting and implementation of multiple strategies. It consists of 3 areas, such as capital investments, what projects to invest in to reach maximum return, risk-adjusted return on capital, capital financing, optimizing the capital structure of a company, and managing dividends and return of capital, deciding how and when to return capital to shareholders.
So you do forecasting. Do you also have to be the one on the approval process? So if I'm in a certain department and I want funding from Qualcomm, I got to go through you?
Yes.
Okay. How do you define success in your role? What does success mean?
I believe a successful financial professional is the one who is viewed as a trusted and reliable partner. The one who knows that finance targets and business objectives are aligned. With limited resources, we need to get that business buy-off. We will pursue this project and this is not as interesting. For example, we can do that next year. The one who can produce accurate reporting in a timely manner, and the one who communicates well. Communication is a key because you need to convey complex financial data to marketing team who doesn't speak the same language or engineering team.
Well, that's a very good point, is that cross-functionality and basically almost being able to speak another language. Marketing probably speaks a different language than finance, even using the same words, but they mean something different to you than to them. How do you pick up and develop that skill?
You prepare, you know that your slides are crafted for a meaningful discussion. You think from their position when you have to explain that with foreign exchange rate, your budget was reduced by 2 million. I put together on a slide different countries' impact. $1 used to be that many British pounds, and now it's that many, and you have 10 employees there, and here's the impact. So then when they can see that, and once they trust you, it's very easy. You start collaborating. It's very easy to achieve results.
Yeah, and Qualcomm is an international company, especially where its product ends up and downstream. So what are the challenges as a finance manager dealing with different markets and forecasting different markets?
FX is one of the things, but we're not responsible. We have treasury team who does hedging, FX hedging for us.
Okay.
At all times you deal with regions, you have to align with all different regional teams. So for example, you manage budget here locally, that is 1 billion and you have 2 million set aside for travel, but India finance team may decide that, oh, my people need more, they need 300,000, but you know that you can allocate only that much. So again, this ability to build trust and collaborative relationship between different people, different businesses is highly critical in this role.
All right. What kind of tools do you use in your roles? So information systems.
For software, we use CM1 for reporting and forecasting. We use Oracle, Tableau, Salesforce, Excel, PowerPoint.
And a lot of our students, because recruiters tell them this, that they have to have these skills coming in. So a lot of our students are a little adverse to applying for jobs if they don't see that they have them. Which ones of these types of tools can be trained after getting a job?
Yeah, I totally disagree with that. We believe attitude is much more important than skills.
Okay.
When we're looking for a candidate, our CFO says, never tell me that that person is proficient in Oracle. That doesn't mean anything, because you can master Oracle skills if you have right attitude, right? When I came, I didn't know Team One, even though we use Team One 90% of the time in financial analyst role.
Right.
I was able to learn it. It is something that you can be taught in training.
Great advice. But with that said, if you do feel like you have a skills gap, go out and do something about it. So if you even want to go to the library or go to Barnes and Nobles and study up a little bit about a program that you think that you need, go and do it. But as Olga said, companies can train. You want to convince them that you're the right candidate first, and then they will be open to training you in those areas.
But that will be a plus. The way to demonstrate your attitude would be, I don't know SQL, but I started already learning, self-learning, for example. Right?
Taking the initiative.
Yep.
So wonderful advice. What about other skills like problem solving and things like that? What do you use on a day-to-day basis in your role?
Creativity is very important, because you always want to challenge the status quo. You always want to improve processes, create, achieve more efficiency in your role. Then decision making is important to make smart and fast decisions. You know, so it's not always about accuracy. Accuracy is highly important, but at some point you need to know how to prioritize. For this request, high level estimate will be sufficient. On this request, we need to spend 3 days, you know, to go through the data. So ability to make fast and smart decisions, creativity. Another one, as I mentioned before, very important, ability to build rapport with people, because you're dealing with different organizations. So trust and collaborative relationship.
Okay. I know that you said that every day is interesting at Qualcomm, but if you could describe an average day, what would that look like?
Yeah, sure. So that date is determined by the cycle where you're in. Finance is well structured because we have our fiscal finance calendar that we follow. For any larger corporation, typical major deliverables will be strat plan when you're working on 3, 5, 10 year strat plan. Then budgeting, when you set 1 year budget. Then you have 4 major outlooks. So for every quarter, you provide next outlook, Jan outlook, April outlook, July, October outlook, and you have mini updates, potentially mini outlooks. So that is on forecasting, and that involves regional alignment, learning the industry, making sure that trend of your numbers follow the industry trend, making sure that regional finance is aligned, sales team is aligned, that we will sell that many products to this customer this year. And then at the end of the period, you work on period end close. For example, Qualcomm's fiscal calendar ends on last Sunday of September. So this Monday we had Happy New Year. We're in fiscal 22 now. We have to close the year in 3 days, and that happens every month, right? Basically, but quarter end is more important than year end is highly important. So then making sure that all entries are recorded, actuals come in as expected. If you have variances, you have reasonable explanation as well too.
Yeah, I remember that from my managing days at Caesars. I was a marketing manager, and anytime we didn't come in as projected or forecasted, I had to explain that. So I'd go in with the finance team and They were good at helping me, but that was probably one of the more daunting things. Like, oh no,
Yeah.
I better have a good reason for
Justification.
why that happened.
Right.
But ultimately, I always felt like the finance team was on my team because we're all working together in one goal.
Mhm.
How do you see that in your role working with other departments, towards the alignment of the same goal?
Because our end goal is to provide excellent service, right, to
Mhm.
internal and external customers, whether that's our FP&A team who's waiting on your volume submission for budget, whether that's our product management team who's waiting, asking you to run ROI analysis for your product, whether that's a customer that wants you to change bill to address on an invoice.
Yeah. Great. So you worked as financial analyst as well at a couple of different companies. How were those roles a little bit different from what you're doing now, or were they?
With whatever higher title, you have more responsibilities, right? Tasks are more complex, and in addition to thinking about yourself, you have to think about team. You're viewed as a subject matter expert, and sometimes, for example, I came in, we just started that BU reporting at Qualcomm, and they asked me that, can you think how we will allocate SG&A expenses to that BU? So for example, finance expense or marketing expense allocated to different businesses because of, right? Then with the time as I'm promoted, I'm viewed as a subject matter expert now for this process. It is automated now, but any team who has questions will come to me and you need to support them. So in addition to your day-to-day responsibilities, you support cross-functional teams. As you have direct reports, you have to think how to empower them, how to help them to meet their career goals.
For those that are trying to get more familiar with the industry, what kind of challenges are you facing right now? For instance, it could be COVID and it's causing projections to be way off. But,
yeah, so right now is we're all in this COVID. I don't know if you heard, semiconductor had a shortage crisis with supply, and as we are in automotive industry, auto dealers were hit a lot by this COVID, and global vehicle production is being, like, projections are being reduced like every month by 3 million units more, and that means a lot. So now you have to manage supply and demand. Customers want much more than what you can supply, unfortunately, and you have to allocate that by customer. Then our suppliers are raising costs. TSMC just posted that they're raising their prices by up to 20% on certain parts. And then you have to think how you can pass that through to customers, or your direct margin will be hit. What to do with that?
So it sounds like it comes at you from many different ways. So the source of the problem is COVID, but you got supply issues, you got inflation issues. So all of these different things that you have to kind of balance that come from.
Yeah, and also customers are, in order to secure more supply, they are booking orders. They're like booking double orders, just to guarantee to get a little bit more supply. Industry analysts called that toilet paper syndrome.
Okay.
When global vehicle production was forecasted to be, for example, it was about 92 million units. But if you account for all global orders of chips, that would equate to 150 million units. So automakers were double ordering to secure supply, and you had to consider that as well.
Be 1 second. For some reason, the lights didn't see a lot of movement in here, and decided to automatically go out. That. Sorry about that. It's the interesting thing about technology. So we have a smart light system, which saves us a lot of energy, which I'm sure the finance team appreciates. But then sometimes it causes some execution issues because we aren't moving enough. Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about your education and advice for our current students who want to be someone like you. Walk in your footsteps, either get a job at Qualcomm or become a finance manager. What was your educational path to get here? So you mentioned it briefly, MBA being a really smart decision, but you did do education in Ukraine as well.
Yep.
And how has that led you down, all of those career steps, or I should say education steps led you down the career path?
So I'm originally from Ukraine. I had my bachelor and master's of economics in banking, and I had almost 10 years experience in banking in Ukraine. When I came here, I tried myself in different roles, including banking. I realized here it is not as fascinating as over there. It's not a investment banking, retail banking. And then I tried myself in accounting, and I realized that I prefer corporate finance, and that's what it helped me to make a decision. But then in order to be competitive, I wanted local education as well. So that's how I decided. And I knew from the beginning that I wanted a job with Qualcomm because we wanted with the family, we were defined we will stay in San Diego. And again, I believe that is the greatest company to be in. So as I applied to SDSU for my MBA, I started applying to Qualcomm as well online.
Yeah, and they are the largest employer in San Diego, in addition to just being a great company to work for, right? So when you began your MBA career, you did or didn't know that you wanted corporate finance at that time?
I did.
You did.
By
okay.
that time, I did. Yeah.
Okay. So what was it that made you think corporate finance? So accounting wasn't quite for you. What was it that attracted you? What is it about corporate finance did you really seem to enjoy?
That it can apply creativity. I like accounting as well, and I believe accounting knowledge is important for a finance person as well. It's just accounting is way more strict and defined, right? In finance, you can apply creativity, and I'm just passionate about numbers. I like when numbers make sense when what you present. You know.
For our accounting students out there, they usually tend to focus on the big four firms, but you have accountants that work at Qualcomm, right? And you work with them directly? So I'm just throwing that out there that you can consider corporate accounting as well, as your options are far greater than sometimes they appear to be. So when did you as a student start preparing for those finance roles, or how did you go about doing it? So I'm guessing because you had a plan from the beginning, you probably started from the beginning. But what were the steps you took in that plan to prepare for corporate finance?
So I think what helped me a lot to prepare and what I did intentionally is participation in all those possible research groups, challenges. That CFA research challenge was very beneficial. Aztec Equity Research Group. Provide everything that provided real world experience. Like in Aztec Equity Research, you're kind of investment analyst, and that helped me to confirm that I'm not interested in that area, that I'm more intended towards corporate finance. The CFA Research Challenge was an awesome project that, in addition to networking opportunities, which are important, was a good summary of all skills I've learned, including industry, business analytics, financial reporting and analysis, corporate governance, because you have to incorporate all that in one research paper. So that was very beneficial. Plus, it was a huge plus when I applied for a job that I stated that we won that CFA Research Challenge. We're representing San Diego at Global Finals.
I'm glad you mentioned that because we would like to be in the CFA Challenge again this semester, and we have a deadline to apply for it of October 7th. So that's coming up pretty closely, but we still don't have a team. So if you're interested in doing the CFA Challenge, contact Dr. Kamal Haddad and let him know that you'd like to be a part of a CFA team. We can get that application in. Final selection for students will be by October 14th. So not a lot of time, but still some time. If you got questions, reach out to me and I can either connect you with Dr. Kamal Haddad or maybe even Olga, who can tell you about her experience even more if you want to learn more. But as you hear from her, it is a great experience and a great resume builder at the same time. So thanks for sharing about that. What other things do you think our students should focus on, as they're here in the education? What things are more likely to get them hired at a place like Qualcomm if they start doing them now?
Building communication skills, as we discussed, presentation communication, mastering Excel skills. Sometimes interns that come late during last years, we noticed that they don't pay attention to Excel at school. Shortcuts, mastering your shortcuts, it increases your productivity a lot. That is something like SQL, as we discussed, Qualcomm, we don't use SQL, but I know Google, Amazon, they look for SQL skills.
Okay. What kind of resources did you take advantage of, or would you recommend that students take advantage of? For instance, did you use the financial services lab that we have here on campus?
I think I did doing that Bloomberg
Yeah.
training.
So there's more geared towards investment, which is, I guess, the part of banking that you like.
Career management services, great
Okay.
resource. I believe I went there to show my resume and they provided valuable advices. All networking opportunities, right?
Mhm.
Super important. And like I said, research groups, challenges. I know there are different, in addition to CFA research challenge, there was some other sort of
Real world projects, real world challenges.
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Great advice. I didn't even train her to say that stuff, but that's all stuff that you'll hear if you want to come visit me in EBA 336, and we'll have a chat. Did you have a mentor, and how did that mentor help you get to where you want to go?
I didn't have one mentor, but at my company, I know that I have a lot of good relationship with a lot of our leaders and management. If I know when I need their help, they're always there for me. So if I need an advice, we have an open door policy.
Awesome. So I'll open the door now for you. Any other advice that you would like to share and pass along to our students?
I just recommend be passionate about what you do, and always remember that you have choices.
I think that's good advice, and that passion can often be seen in your physical presence. So it's a good interviewing tip. Is think about the things you're passionate about, talk about them. And when I was a hiring manager and I hired people, when somebody started talking about something they were passionate about, you could tell their eyes would light up, there'd be a smile on their face. And it always actually made me feel better about that candidate. So sometimes showing a little bit of personality and emotion in an interview can serve you very well.
Yep.
Well, let's open it up for questions. We only have one student that's present right now, but that's okay. Kyle, the floor is yours. Is there anything that you would like to ask Olga?
Yeah, I just want to check first, is my audio coming through correctly?
We hear you.
Okay, cool. First off, thanks, Olga, as well as you, Greg, for your time today. That was super informative. As someone who grew up in San Diego, it was really cool to get a little window into what it's like at Qualcomm. I do have a question for you, Olga, about how you developed your forecasting skills. Was that all on the job, or is there something that I could be working on my own to develop my own forecasting skills?
That was mostly on the job. That really relates what you are responsible for. If you're responsible for legal spend, then you need to work with your legal team. What are the cases that they're working on, what they think. If you're responsible for just resource planning, then you have your organization, let's say 1,000 employees, you will have full-time employees, temp employees by region. Might consider that for FX change, but it can be mastered easily in a job, something that you can easily teach while in training, while on job or studying. Or if you're working on revenue right now, then you're concentrated on volume forecasting. So you work with sales team a lot, and they're saying we will sell product A 100 units, product B 200, and then you work on pricing and make sure that final numbers make sense. You look at the trend. And if we're talking about selling cars, automotive industry is expecting 10% year-over-year increase, and your numbers are suggesting 20% reduction, then something is definitely not right.
And here on campus, some ways that you can prepare is to actually do projects that will allow you to start doing some forecasting. We have a class that Dr. Claudio de Mofti teaches. They look at the German market, and actually we have a partnership with a University of Berlin over there that sends German students here. So we have students that will go to Germany, their students will come here. They look at bringing a German product in the American market, and we look at bringing an American product to the German market. And part of that is forecasting what the market will produce. And so it may not apply directly to the job that you're going to have. You're going to only learn that by being in your job, but it will at least allow you to start getting some experience like, okay, this is what forecasting is.
That's a very good example.
Yeah.
Yeah. So once you do that just one time, you understand, and then you just have different drivers with every different line that you're responsible for on P&L, you will have different drivers. So for example, if you know what your employees, what your resources look like, and your recruiting expense is 5,000 per person, then you already know what your recruiting spend is. But those drivers are very subjective, and you can easily understand that. But that's a good example.
Okay. What else are you curious about, Kyle?
I also was really encouraged by your statement that attitude can, in some cases, mean more than skills. As long as you have the correct attitude, that you can learn the skills on the job. So that was really encouraging to me, as I don't necessarily have a background in finance, but I'm looking into potentially getting into finance. What would be some entry-level opportunities that I should look for at Qualcomm?
We have financial analyst associate opportunities from time to time. And yes, totally. If you can demonstrate that you're willing to work in a fast-paced environment, that you understand the difference between effort and end result, that you can produce fast and accurate results, that you have positive attitude, then you will be a great candidate. And we can connect on LinkedIn, and I can look for opportunities for you when you're ready.
Plus, when you actually do apply for the role, if Olga said to the hiring manager, whoever that person could be, you never know, it could be Olga, but whoever that person ends up being, she said, you should take a look at Kyle, you're probably guaranteed to get that interview. So networking, extremely important, Kyle.
Yeah.
I'll be sure to add you on LinkedIn after this, Olga. I really appreciate that.
Definitely. Yeah, and we like when our people develop, most of our VPs, SVPs, they started as associates with Qualcomm, and because it's such an amazing company, they just never left.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it makes it harder to come in at the higher levels because the people from up go up, but isn't that really the kind of company we all want to be a part of, a place that will actually develop you and give you opportunities?
Yes, definitely opportunities for internal team trying to give that.
Yes. These are great questions, Kyle. You still have the floor if you have some more.
I think that's about all I have. Again, I really appreciate your time, Olga, as well as you, Greg. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Kyle.
All right. Well, with that said, I do want to extend thanks to Olga, taking some time out of her busy day to come back to campus. We miss her. So glad that we were able to give her a reason to be back here. Thank you so much, Olga.
Yeah. It is my pleasure. Nice to be here.
All right. Well, we'll see you next week. We will have data analytics. Take care. Forward button here.